Aloha everyone, TF32 is here, back on to Ride 5. I promise this content will be coming to the channel very soon, but I just wanted to share with you my brand new league because I actually deleted the other one. I had to make some changes. So I'm going to go through everything again. This is going to be available for anyone that has Ride 5 on Steam. So we're going to go to my competitions, show the details, and we're going to go through everything in the league. First of all, the name is Project 990cc MotoGP 2002 to 2006, and this is version 2. It has 6 downloads already, which is quite nice. The last one I had almost reached 20 downloads. Unfortunately, it ended up getting deleted when I edited some stuff. There's 16 races, 20 riders, and I've chosen preset 1 for the points, which is basically the MotoGP format, except third place is 15 points. It really should be 16. So whenever I do these custom championships, I always use a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet or Google Sheets or whatever. There is a timed qualifier of 10 minutes as well. Race settings 120%. 10 laps, or depends on the length of the race. Tire wear is off, except you can set that in the race, which is pretty stupid. Customized standard for the riding aids, and now let's get to the rider's grid here. And all these teams are pretty much based on the 2005 and 2006 MotoGP teams. So let's go through it. First up, let's touch upon the Kawasaki Racing team, and I used the 2008 Kawasaki Racing livery. It was the final livery to be used by Kawasaki until they were folded due to the financial crisis. The first rider you have is myself, Freddie Higgins, and alongside I have Shinny Nakano, the most successful rider for the Kawasaki Racing team. Scored a couple of podiums in his time, one at Twin Ring Motegi in 2004, and another one at Assen in 2006. He's probably best known, not just for Kawasaki, but also his stint in 250s where he was battling against Olivier Jacques for the championship. I actually have them on the 2006 MV Agusta because I'm trying to level out the playing fields for all the other bikes. The 2021 ZX-10RR is just a little bit fast of a bike, so I decided to put the MV Agusta in and sort of match the realistic performance of the Kawasaki back when they were competing. And next up, we have the Gaulois Yamaha factory team of Valentino Rossi and Colin Edwards. Let's touch upon the Doctor for a little bit. This was his most dominant season in 2005. It's based off the 2005 livery. He scored multiple wins, was on the podium every single race that he finished, and it's his strongest season in his entire career. And alongside, we have Colin Edwards. This was his first season of a 3-year stint, and he finished 4th in 2005 with 3 podiums, one of which was at the inaugural race at Laguna Seca, in the MotoGP era anyway. Next up, I'm going to be going to a satellite entry. We have Max Biaggi. For using this livery, this actually came from inspiration for a wildcard livery used in 2003 by Norik Abe. And because I didn't want to have teams that consisted of more than 2 riders, I decided to put that wildcard livery on here. He spent a good amount of his career in Yamaha, so that's why I decided to put him there and not for Honda, which you'll see in a little bit. Now, Max Biaggi, believe it or not, entering the 990cc era, he was really wading away. In fact, his final victory was in 2004. In 2005, which was his final season, he went over to Repsol Honda, where he would go winless. It would be, I believe, his first winless season, if not ever, in a while for the Premier class. Putting him on this bike makes him a lot more competitive. So next up, we're going to Fortuna Yamaha Tech 3, which is sported by Tony Elias and Carlos Checa. And, of course, this is the 2005 livery. This was the rookie season for Tony Elias. Not too bad a season overall. I mean, he did score Rookie of the Year. And didn't score any podiums, wouldn't score his only win until 2006, but that was when he moved over to Gresini and brought the Fortuna sponsorship with him. And by the way, you've noticed by this point there is no cigar, nicotine, or alcohol censorship at all within this league. We're doing full-fledged sponsorship because I just don't believe in censorship. But that's a topic for another day, I suppose. And he's also pretty well known for being the champion in Moto America in 2017. And he was also runner-up in 2019 with a hard-fought title fight with Cameron Beaubier. And for the teammate, I picked Carlos Checa. He actually rode with the Fortuna sponsorship on the factory team in 2004. It was very bizarre the way they split Tech 3 and the factory team, but I decided to put him here, and he did actually return to the Tech 3 team in 2006 for his penultimate season in MotoGP. And in the MotoGP era, it was kind of lackluster for him. He only scored one podium in 2004 when he was on that Yamaha. Didn't score any in 2003 because it was really the season of the Honda that season. In 2005, he actually moved over to Ducati where he scored 2 podiums, and that's because Ducati really got an upgrade. But very talented rider, had 2 victories in his lifetime, multiple podiums, and he's still regarded as a MotoGP legend in my eyes. Next up, we're going over to the Rizla Suzuki team, manned by John Hopkins and Christopher Mullen. Oh yeah, and by the way, all these Yamahas, they're on the YZF R1M, 2020 for the factory team and Max Biaggi, and 2019 for the Fortuna Yamaha Tech 3 team because it's a satellite team. So, John Hopkins, he already had renowned his status as a journeyman rider. He actually wouldn't really score any poles or podiums until 2006, where he scored a pole position at Assen. But no podiums, unfortunately. Did manage to get a best finish of 4th, but wouldn't score any podiums at all until 2007. And that was, after that season, that's pretty much where his career in MotoGP pretty much took a nosedive for unfortunate circumstances out of his control. But I believe he was on a 5-year contract when he was riding for Rizla Suzuki, starting from 2003. And Christopher Mullen, he was coming over from World Superbikes. He actually had a wild card appearance at Phillip Island in 2005, riding for the Camel Honda Ponds team, but accepted a full-time ride in 2006 alongside John Hopkins, replacing Kenny Roberts, who is the next rider on our list. He actually had a pretty decent season, scoring a podium at Phillip Island, and he went on in the following season to score multiple podiums, including his first and only win at a very wet Le Mans round. And they are both on the 2007 GSX R1000. And moving on to Team Roberts, where we have Kenny Roberts Jr. riding the MV Agusta KR211V Roberts machine. 2006 was actually the final season where Kenny Roberts would score any podiums, and his final podium would take place at Estoril, scoring a 3rd place finish, and 1st and 2nd. That race is very notorious for being one of the most epic finishes in MotoGP history, with the final margin being 2 1,000ths of a second, where Tony Elias got his one and only victory versus the man, the doctor, the legend, Valentino Rossi. And that was ultimately the deciding factor between Rossi's 2006 title bout. But that aside, Roberts did decently, finishing 6th in 2006, his final full season that he ran. And he could have won that race. He pretty much misjudged when the final lap was, and allegedly, according to his interview, he let off the throttle a little bit and could have went on to fight a little bit. And that would have been his first victory since 2000, which was when he won the 500 championship. Still a pretty good season for him overall. 2006 was his best season in a while. There's no Roberts machine, which was run by his three-time world champion father, so we had to go with the MV Augusta. Kenny Roberts Sr. and Kenny Roberts Jr. are also the only father-son championship winner duo in MotoGP history. Next up, we're going over to Repsol Honda, 2006, manned by Nicky Hayden and Danny Pedrosa. Now, in 2006, Nicky Hayden was pretty much at the peak of his MotoGP performance. He'd already won AMA Championship in 2002, and he would go on to score 4 podiums in the first 2 seasons in 03 and 04. In 05 would prove to be his first real breakout season, finally getting that maiden victory at Laguna, following Colin Edwards and Rossi, which would have made that an American 1-2. He would go on for basically a big podium scoring streak from the end of 05 to the beginning of 06, and that's when they sported the new Repsol Honda look. And in that season, he scored 2 wins and I believe 7 or 8 additional podiums. And his consistency was just enough to get the better of Valentino Rossi, winning by just 8 points over him. And rest in peace to him, and out of respect to him and the rest of his family, I'm going to leave his death details out of this video. As for Danny Pedrosa, this was his maiden season, getting off of his 250 World Championships, and he would go on to score 2 victories himself, multiple podiums, also very consistent rider, even was as high as second at one point in the championship. I believe he ended up scoring a 5th place points finish just behind Marco Melandri and Loris Capirossi. But much like Nicky Hayden, very consistent. Pedrosa would end up making a pretty good career for himself. Similarly to Mark Martin in NASCAR, he's probably the best MotoGP rider never to win a championship, with 31 victories. Actually, so he's a test rider right now for Red Bull KTM, and he scored a podium in the sprint race at Jerez last season, proving that he still has it within him. He's like 38, 39 years old right now. He still got it within him. And people are wondering why he doesn't race full-time with his performance. It's because he has no desire to move up the ranks. And in 2023, he would get finishes of 7th and 4th in both of the wild card rounds that he had. And they pretty much went unnoted by the media, unfortunately. There weren't really any interviews, I don't think, which is kind of an insult in my eyes. So, Hayden and Pedrosa are sporting the 2019 Honda CBR 1000 RR, as are the other Honda teams going forth. They're also on the 2019 Honda. And we're going on to the next team on our list, which is Camel Honda Ponds, manned by Alex Barros and Toru Ukawa from 2003. I add him in because I just couldn't leave him out. He was part of the dominant Repsol Honda team of 2002, and he did finish his full-time career in 2003 on Camel Honda Ponds. And in 2005, I think this was the point where Camel Honda Ponds was really starting to lose sponsorship, so I decided to bring some sponsorship from 03 and 04 over to make the bike just a little more stylish. And I couldn't find any Camel logos or anything on the sticker editor for them, so I decided to make one of the pre-made Ride 5 icons and put them on where it would have been. 2005 would be the final year that Alex Barros would score victory. That was at Estoril. I'm not going to go into details. It was a pretty entertaining race, and basically his results do not speak of his skill. He is probably the most underrated MotoGP rider I've ever seen, especially in 2002 when he was pushing, basically outperforming his 500 bike against the 990cc bike of Valentino Rossi as well as the other factory riders. It showed that he had a lot to prove. Even Rossi himself said that he was pushing that bike far more than himself or any other rider he had ever competed against. And when he eventually got gifted the factory bike in the last 4 races of the season, he would have a perfect podium streak and even scoring 2 victories out of it. 2005, he would score that victory at Estoril, and also scored 1 additional podium at Donington Park in the wet. And throughout his time in MotoGP, he was very consistent, scoring top 10 after top 10 every single race. Would get a notorious reputation for crashing a lot, but when he was on the bike, he was performing and delivering results. And he was well known for being a very late braker, and that's where Rossi learned how to manage his braking and be able to beat the competition. He learned it from Alex Barros. So, yeah, very underrated rider. In 2003, Toru Okawa was really at the tail end of his career. It was, as I said, his final full-time season. Didn't score any podiums. Far cry difference from his final season at the factory outfit in 2002, where he scored a victory and was regularly on the podium, but it may have had to do with the dominance of the Honda bike in general, and also being against where half the grid was 500 bikes. And I include him in because he was big in the 500cc era, and he was good during his time in 990s. So, yeah. Next up, we are going to the Telefonica movie star Honda Gresini team of 2005, manned by Marco Melandri and Sete Gibernau. This was a real breakout season for Marco Melandri, already having 2 seasons in MotoGP, and this was also his first season on the Honda. He scored 2 victories, which were both in the final 2 races of the season, scored multiple podiums, and got a runner-up finish, proving that he had a lot to prove, and he could deliver whenever he could. And his teammate Sete Gibernau, he did not score a victory in 2005, but he was more or less at the tail end of his career during this time. And he got loads of poles, unfortunately could not convert any of those into victories. And of course, he was very bitter after being runner-up in both of the years prior to that. And the only person finishing ahead of him, basically, was Valentino Rossi. I know I've been speaking of him a lot, but he was literally the rider of MotoGP during this time, and there's a reason why he's the most successful rider, and he has loads of fans, including myself. And he retired gracefully. But on to the next team. We got LCR Honda, and I included the Konica Minolta Honda bike of Makoto Tamada in here as well, just to keep the continuation of 2-rider teams going. So this was, I feel like not a lot of people knew this, but this was the rookie season for Casey Stoner, and it was also the debut season for Lucio Cecchinello's team based in Monaco. And basically this set the groundwork for Casey Stoner's career. He would score a podium at Istanbul Park, and he was competing for the victory. He would get beaten out by Marco Melandri, but he was crashing a lot, unfortunately. I'm not sure if the Honda just wasn't suiting him. But in 2005, he actually signed a contract to ride for Camel Honda Ponds. They, of course, went bankrupt in 2005, but they still wanted to guarantee a ride for him coming from the 250s. So they provide one single factory spec bike. He would be consistently in the top 10 for all the races that he did finish, albeit retiring in a lot of them. And Makoto Tamada, this is based off his 2006 livery. 2005 would be the final year that he scored a podium, and I believe that was at Twin Ring Motegi. And this was his penultimate season before switching over to Dunlop Yamaha Tech 3 for his final stint before doing other stints in Japan later afterwards. And I've paired these two as teammates because, they're both on Hondas, and I just want to keep that continuation of 2-rider teams. And it makes sense, especially for team championships. And for the final team on our list, we have got Ducati Marlboro team manned by Loris Capirossi and Troy Bayliss. Loris Capirossi, very prominent rider in 2006, somewhat in 2005 as well, where he scored 2 victories then. And In 2006, he scored 3 victories, one at the season opener at Jerez, one at Brno, and his final one at Twin Ring Motegi. He was leading the championship for quite some time, especially at the beginning of the season. And just 2006 was a very close championship, very entertaining in general, just because of how many different winners there were. I add Troy Bayliss in. I mean, he was quite an iconic rider of the 990 era, and he did score that victory at Valencia at the end of the season, which was overshadowed by the championship that was going on between Hayden and Rossi. He qualified in second and then got in the first after the first corner and just led from that point on and pretty much blew everyone out of the water. And he had the talent, but he was often let down by his equipment during the time that he was in MotoGP. And fortunately in 2004, so he rode for them full time in 03 and 04, but got let go after 04 due to his unreliability. But a lot of people argue that in that season, his teammate Loris Capirossi had also only scored 1 podium during that time, and he was struggling probably just as much as Bayliss was. So, a lot of people, including myself, view his termination of contract as very unjustifiable. In 2005, he went over to Camel Honda Ponds alongside Alex Barros before returning to World Superbikes, where he won the 2006 championship. And so he was basically a replacement rider / wildcard rider in the final race because Capirossi's teammate Sete Gibernau was out due to an injury. So Bayliss took over and he showed what he still was capable of and won his first and final race in MotoGP. So yeah, that is the roster, and they are on the 2008 Ducati 1098R. So for tracks, I've picked these tracks not by the MotoGP calendar, but really due to the Ride 5's AI being strong in certain places. Imola, they're pretty strong. Suzuka, I would say they're okay. I picked Kyalami for this because there's no Fakiza Freeway that is available, and it hasn't really been raced at for a major event in quite some time. Interlagos I picked because Jacarepagua wasn't available. One of my favorite tracks that doesn't actually exist anymore. Snetterton, the AI are really strong around here. Lama, they're strong around here and they aren't. There are a few corners where they crash regularly, and it's really annoying, but it's still kind of entertaining, and it makes for an unpredictable race. Mugello, they're pretty good. Cadwell Park, they're really strong. CTMP, they're really strong around there, as well as Donington Park, Laguna Seca. I picked the Blue Wave circuit because the views are beautiful, and the AI can usually put up a good fight. Sportsland Sugo, I decided to put Utah in, just so America can get some love. And we got Estoril, and we finish off the season at Brands Hatch. A lot of these English tracks are the AI's strongest tracks. And that's the league. It's available for download now. It's available on Steam. I was talking to Robo46 about trying to play this league, and those plans got scrapped when I found out that you cannot cross-play from Steam onto Xbox and the PlayStation consoles, which is super annoying. So unfortunately, what should have been him playing the league right now ended up not happening because he doesn't play this game on Steam. So as a result, I'm going to promote the league, and I'm going to invite people to play this. And for the Kawasaki team, if you want to replace my rider with Olivier Jacques or Alex Hoffman or Randy DePunier, go ahead, do so. Nothing's stopping you. But hey, just wanted to put this out there. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.